not there, but Romane is here. Romane is in the house. Hey, Romane.
Okay. My mistake.
Romane, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, good morning.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good, good. So, we talk about a number of issues here, but there's one kind of pressing that I think we need to talk about. And, I hate to talk about a person, but sometimes you see behavior that can only be described as being bizarre. And to that end, we got to talk about Ye, as he is now called Kanye West, because, this brother has a history of somewhat bizarre or, shall we say, unorthodox behavior. But as of late, it seems as if he is spiraling out of control. And, it's my hope that somebody will snatch his brother up and get him some help, maybe get him to a hospital where he can be admitted, evaluated, and maybe he needs some medication before things get worse. And, his statements from the other day are really snowballing. But let's start with prior to the incident with the Jewish community. So before that happened, Kanye West was walking around with a White Lives Matter t-shirt. And I guess he's giving these to other people. I don't know if he's trying to make a fashion statement, if he's trying to make a political or social statement, or if this is just a novelty for him. But I do not believe that the idea of white lives matter. I don't think that's ever been an issue. I think we've all been aware of that. I don't think that's ever been in question. So I'm not really sure where he was going with that. With him, you just don't know. Is he trying to say that white lives matter as well as black lives? And again, I think in this country, white lives have always mattered. But, who is to say when it comes to this young man, what it is he's thinking, he's feeling, or he's trying to express? And, the other day, he went onto Twitter with a rather really bizarre statement. So the statement goes something like, he is a little sleepy now, but when he wakes up, it's going to be DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. So, again, what do you mean by that when you say DEFCON 3? DEFCON 3 is a defensive posture that the United States uses, in readiness for an attack. I would think it is a nuclear attack, that is a state of readiness and preparedness to repel a nuclear attack. But for Kanye West, what are you saying? And in this day and time, when people make a threat or what you perceive to be a threat, can you not respond to that? Should you just laugh it off, saying, oh, it's just Kanye being Kanye? But every day when you turn on the news and you see random shootings, like in North Carolina just the other day, and while I mentioned North Carolina, I just like to say our thoughts and prayers are with those families who tragically lost family members in North Carolina in a senseless act of violence. And also to the family of the 2 police officers killed in Connecticut the other day. So when somebody makes what you perceive to be a threat, how seriously should you take it? So, Romane, what do you think? I mean, if somebody, Kanye's stature, and influence makes a threat, would you take it seriously?
I don't think that the important part right now with this is his entertainment stature, his money. I don't think any of that's important. I think what would make me stop and ponder over whether or not we need to take him seriously. It's his diagnosis. And so it is not unheard of for people with bipolar disorder to have hallucinations and delusions, and you know, sometimes it's grandiose delusions, sometimes it's conspiracy theories, sometimes it's, it could be a host of things. And we don't know how long Kanye stays in these different states where he swings from like mania to depression, or we don't know. He does look like he's medicated right now. So, but I think that when someone has a mental health disorder and diagnosis like Kanye, I don't think anybody can say, and I said that to my sons, that we can't say, oh, he's just talking. Hopefully he's just talking, but he's really not looking good right now. Physically, he doesn't look well.
Well, when I mentioned his stature, I meant that in terms of Kanye has money, lots of it, which gives him access to weapons. And also, in a state of mania, when he has, I guess, a dissociative break, he has the ability to hire people to actually go out and hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
When you have money, you can certainly do that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take much to have somebody's life taken nowadays. So that's what I meant about when I said his stature, his capabilities economically. He can go out and Kanye could probably buy a nuclear missile if he wanted to.
And his influence, because he has a great influence to with this next generation.
Right.
So.
And, if Charles Manson can go out and recruit a family to commit murder for him, right? Is it possible that Kanye West could do the same thing? Now, that is a stretch, and I'll admit that is a stretch. But when somebody is in Kanye's state, right, and none of us are doctors, and none of us have ever come in contact with Kanye to know, or even to talk to him, and to get a sense of what's wrong with him. But I think that now, for Kanye in his career moving forward, I think it's in jeopardy. I think that in the past, when Kanye has done and said things that offended certain people or angered certain people, it didn't rise to this level. Now he has offended, a very powerful group in this country, a very influential group, and we're talking about Jewish people. And Jewish people have a great deal of influence over the recording industry. So what happens to Kanye moving forward in terms of his career as a writer and producer? Where does he go from here? So my thought is that somebody needs to get Kanye into some kind of facility so that he can get some help, so people can say, you know what, this young man has this young man is mentally ill, and we cannot take what he says as a threat. He said it in a state of mania, was not aware of the gravity of what he said, isn't aware of what he's doing right now. And if that were to be the case, how far can you take it? At this point, if Jewish people in this country perceive what Kanye said as a threat, how far can they take it? Keeping in mind, this young man has, access. He has money, he has access to weapons, access to hiring people, access to, many different things he could do. We don't know his capability, but, if they were to take this as a threat, how far could this go? Enough for Kanye in his career and the effect on his family. He's got 4 children. So I just think that somebody needs to get him some help before it's too late, before he says something else or does something else that really puts not just his career but his life in jeopardy. So I'm thinking maybe we should open up the phone lines because I know some other people probably have some input on what's going on with Kanye, and they'd like to hear some of their thoughts. So the number here is 888-304-4401. Again, 888-304-4401. So now, Romane, calling on your experience as a social worker, if you were to come in contact with someone who's displaying some of the same, I guess, behaviors as Kanye, what sort of advice would you give them? And what do you think you would want to do with this person?
There's a term in the mental health world called the 302, which is
I'm familiar with that.
Which is an involuntary hospitalization, and I think that what he said is right there, borderline what we could consider. There's a category we use where we say the person poses a physical threat to themselves or others. And if you can fit a constituent into that category, that would be grounds to start thinking about a 302, an involuntary hospitalization. I'm just wondering why that hasn't, been discussed like in the public. It could be being discussed, behind the scenes, but I haven't heard anything like that in the public eye. But I think that he's, my son said he's not that sick right now. I beg to differ. Even his movements are starting to look a little catatonic. I was watching him walk on camera, and he's not doing well right now. He probably definitely needs to be hospitalized. And on top of that, this has the potential to destroy his career because we live in a cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, any little thing you do, you can get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And what Kanye did, we know, is like taboo here. You don't kind of like mess with the Jews, right? Because
Right.
they kind of run that entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
And then his relationship with the bank, JP Morgan, was canceled too. They canceled
Yes.
their relationship with him and said, we don't want your money. We don't want anything to do with your clothing line money. We don't want anything to do with you. So I think that they are starting that cancel process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. I think that somebody, I don't know who the somebody is. I think Kris Jenner, she has always had a pretty influencing relationship with Kanye. Maybe she could talk to Kanye. Like, who talks to him right now? He doesn't have his mom. His marriage is, destroyed, right? So who is the voice of reason with Kanye right now? Whoever that person is, they probably need to go sit down and have a talk with him. Maybe he could voluntarily go into treatment.
And you know something? You said something that's extremely powerful. You said that JP Morgan Chase is basically telling him, take your money elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Since when does a bank tell you to take hundreds of millions of dollars and leave our institution?
Mm-hmm.
Over $1 billion in their bank.
Right.
He has over $1 billion in their bank.
Over $1 billion
in their
right?
bank.
Terry says over $1 billion. So if this young man has $1 billion in the bank, who says take your $1 billion elsewhere? So what's happening is while he's cascading out of control, right? Psychologically, I guess he doesn't see the danger that's coming for him. Not just the economic impact, but what about, as I said, going forward? Where does your career go from here? Now, before, again, Kanye has made some irresponsible statements and done some really bizarre things. When his marriage with Kim was beginning to, I guess, break apart, Kanye decided that he was going to move his family to Wyoming. He goes out there and buys a huge piece of property, and says, well, I want to bring the family here. But for someone like Kim Kardashian, who makes probably the bulk of her income from exposure, right? And for that, you want to be in a media center like New York or Los Angeles. And I guess Kim said to Kanye, I can just imagine, she said, hey, listen, I ain't moving to no damn Wyoming. You know what I mean? My money is in exposure, right? My money is being an influencer. What am I going to do? Move up there with some horses and some cows? You know, I mean, so I guess that was his way of trying to get away from the madness that is Hollywood. And who knows, maybe if Kim had agreed to go and away from, you know, the limelight, maybe then he could have gotten some help. Maybe, because you know something, realistically, there's nothing like pillow talk. You know, when a woman puts an idea into a man's head, right, and influences him, what am I saying this morning? Tongue tied. Influences him to do certain things. So, you know, maybe if they just went up there for a period of time, they'll take 3 months away from, you know, Hollywood and just kind of inject that idea into his head, you know, baby, you know, maybe we should go talk to somebody. Maybe it'd help to save our marriage. You know, but unfortunately, that did not happen. So now you have Kanye, and, you know, he's got the clothing line. Well, of course, if the banks are going to reject money, which does not happen, they take money from people like Pablo Escobar, right? From arms dealers who, you know, kill literally hundreds of thousands of people. You take their money, but you won't take Kanye's money. So this boy is in real trouble. And if the banks, as I said, aren't taking his money, it won't be long before the major clothing stores will begin to say, take your stuff off our shelves. He has money right now, but will he be able to keep it? I mean, will there be lawsuits in the offing from people who say, well, you know, I feel threatened. I've had to alter my lifestyle in order to feel protected, right? And it is as a result of the threat he made. Is that an offing? You know what I mean? I guess he doesn't see it coming because maybe he is still in that manic state. And when you say, you know, he's begin the way he walks, his gait. So you're saying it appears as if he's catatonic.
His walk is, he's not catatonic yet. He's headed in that direction. He doesn't look well at all. And they've already started talking about it in articles saying that he appears to be abusive and dangerous toward Kim, even toward Kim. So they're already beginning to set the stage for a reason for them to ultimately cancel him. So I think we don't even know we don't even know if a hospitalization would salvage his career at this point. We don't know that, but I think it's worth a shot. See, he did a lot of damage with that comment toward the Jews. He did a lot of damage. So I don't know.
So now, if people are beginning to say that Kanye appears to be maybe in a mental state where he would do harm to others, you know, that's a whole nother ball game. Because now, you know, it kind of starts the ball rolling. Does Kim say, hey, I fear for my safety? Does she say, I fear for the safety of the children? You know, for Kanye, wherever he is right now, if he wants to go visit his children and Kim says no, because right now in your mental state, I can't trust you with these children. I don't know what you do. For law enforcement, if they were to become involved, and ultimately they might, you know, if you say that a black man is behaving in a bizarre manner, in not just a bizarre manner, but a threatening manner as well, and has made a very public threat, what happens when the police encounter Kanye? Yeah, we know Kanye has, lots of money. We know that Kanye is a great producer and writer and rapper. But when he's encountered, say, LAPD, he's none of that. He's a threat. He's someone who has made a very public threat against a very influential community. He is someone that his wife has expressed she's fearful of, does not trust her children with their father because of his mental state. So what happened when if and when that encounter takes place? So, at this point, for Kanye, now you're the expert, Roman, but is it too late for an intervention?
No, it's never too late for an intervention. But like I said, does that mean an intervention is going to salvage his career? I don't know. I guess it's worth a shot, but he definitely needs an intervention. He needs a respite from all of it. And he needs to go. As far as we know, I'll be honest with you, I can't say that he's not medicated. He looks like he might be medicated. Maybe he needs his meds reevaluated. Maybe he needs some stuff tweaked. I don't know. Maybe he just needs a break. But obviously, something has transpired with Kim and her dating and all the divorce, and something triggered crisis, and it sent him spiraling into crisis. So he probably should have grabbed a hold of it as soon as it started. But again, I don't know who he has around him. I think the Kardashians were his major support system, emotionally. Some people joke around and say he was in a sunken place with them. I don't know, but they looked like they really supported Kanye. So who does he have now?
That's a good question. And again, we have to keep in mind that Kanye has lots of money. And for those around him who see him spiraling out of control, is their major concern Kanye or access to the money? Because, let's be realistic. You have somebody who is suffering a mental break. You see it. You hear what they're saying. It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, he's writing those checks. So, okay, let's leave him half crazy so he'll keep writing the checks, right? You get him some medication, you put him in a hospital, get him a psychiatrist, get him some medication, get him some therapy, and that might stop the checks. I might get cut off. Mm-hmm. So let's just leave him half crazy. Not completely crazy, just half, so we can get this money, right? Is that the sort of people he is surrounded by? I know that, from what I understand, his father's still alive, right? And I would hope, because if it was my son that was displaying bizarre behavior, for me, I'm going to snatch my son. You know what I mean? Look, you have two choices. You can get in an ambulance, or I can choke you out and put you in an ambulance. Mm-hmm. But one way or the other, you going to get some help. Period. Because I don't want to see anything happen to my son. And, let's be realistic. This is America. This is a young black man in America who's spiraling out of control. We have young black men who get killed for walking home from the store wearing a ski mask because they have a condition that keeps them, cold. Or, young black man walks through a neighborhood and, some self-proclaimed neighborhood watcher comes out and shoots and kills him because he was wearing a hoodie and he didn't think he belonged there. So if innocent behavior will get you killed in this country, what happens when your behavior is bizarre and people are fearful of you? So if that's my son, oh no, I'm coming. You can believe that. So when I get there, make up your mind. You go voluntarily, or do I snatch you up and take you there? But you're going to get there one way or the other. You know what I mean? I don't know if his father feels that he's in a position to do that, but somebody needs to, because this really goes beyond, his wealth and his influence. This can affect his life, because if Kanye is spiraling out of control and the availability of weapons everywhere, you know what I mean? If Kanye was to really snap and want to hurt somebody, and we see it every day, every day we turn on our television sets and we see where there's another mass shooting where somebody just completely snapped. And it just didn't happen overnight. You don't wake up on Monday and decide, I'm just going to kill every neighbor on the block. This is a mental break that happens in stages, and people see it and I guess ignore it. And in Kanye's case, I hope this is not something that people are going to ignore or write off or laugh off and say, well, it's just Kanye being Kanye. This is different.
And Ron, they knew, apparently from what I'm hearing, they knew that he was spiraling out and he was manic, because they were talking about how he was working around the clock and he was scheduling all of these things all simultaneously, which is definitely a sign that he was manic, because he wasn't sleeping. I have clients, that's a first sign for me when a client tells me that they can't sleep. I haven't been asleep in days, or I'm working around the clock. Those are indicators that something's not right. So again, if these people that are around him really care about him and they are close to him, that would have been the time to stop him, to say, we need to get you to take a break for a minute. You need to go a mental health break, and go get some help. If nothing else, just to talk to somebody, because stress can exacerbate a manic episode. And I would imagine a divorce and the situation with his kids and all this stuff going on at one time, probably what didn't help it. Because we've seen Kanye manic before. We've seen him manic before. He was running for president.
Right.
We've seen him manic before. But it's like you said, what he has the potential to do if he really wanted to do something. The other part of that is, because he is a great influence to a whole culture, right? We know what somebody can do when they have influence over a younger generation, right? He could really, it could be ugly. It could get ugly. And they know that. The world knows that.
Well, something, I think that this process began some time ago, right? When he had the bizarre run for president. And then recently, I think it was one of his last record releases, he showed up wearing a mask, right? Never said a word, just stood there in the center stage wearing a mask, right? While the music is playing. So, people might have thought, oh yeah, Kanye is just, he's brilliant, he's a genius. And he has some brilliant or genius tendencies. But when he did that, that may have been a cry for help. That was an indication, or should have been an indication, that he was beginning to spiral, right? The run for president, when he broke down and started crying during, a press conference, clearly there was something very, very wrong with Kanye. So, I guess if we take everything in context, maybe we shouldn't be so surprised about what he said, because this has been going on for some time. And obviously, he hasn't been seeking treatment. And because of that, everything kind of builds to a crescendo, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it going to be for Kanye West? Money aside, he has 4 children. You don't want to put the children through the trauma, maybe seeing their father, committed to a psych ward for an indefinite amount of time, being in prison, or worse, getting killed. You know what I mean? And all these things are possibilities for this young man unless he gets some help. And I really sincerely hope he does it. You can't laugh at things like this. At some point, it's not funny anymore. We're dealing with someone's life. So, with that, I want to shift gears a little bit, because Kanye has been, front and center in the headlines. Well, there is a sister who has fallen out of the headlines, who essentially is being forgotten. And I'm talking about Brittany Griner. Brittany has been held in Russia since, I believe it was February. And, it's approaching a year since she's been held by Russian authorities. So, if I'm not mistaken, Brittany was entering Russia, where she has for the past several seasons gone in the off season from the WNBA to play, I guess, for a Russian team. Well, on this trip, she was found to have vape pens, and I guess some of the vape may have contained cannabis or cannabis oils, and apparently that is prohibited or illegal in Russia. Under normal circumstances, I would imagine that if anything, they would have been confiscated, and Brittany may have been ordered to pay a fine. But with the tense situation between our country and Russia and the war in Ukraine, it seems as if Brittany is a political football, and that our government is not really doing much to address this young woman's plight. And now there are some reports that she is breaking down psychologically. And that is understandable, when it seems as if all hope is lost, that no one is making an effort to get you out of this nightmare. And you know something? I went and I looked it up. If you kill someone in Russia, under Russian law, if there are no aggravating circumstances, in this act, this homicidal act, you can expect a sentence of between 6 and 15 years. That's for killing someone. Brittany Griner had a couple of vape pens, and she's looking at 9 years, and there were some reports of possibly hard labor. So the Russian prosecutor said she was smuggling this cannabis or cannabis oil into Russia. Now let's stop and think for a second. For a person who is smuggling drugs, you want to have people who are not going to draw attention to themselves, right? People who can just blend into the crowd, right? That customs and the police forces wouldn't even notice. Who does not notice a 6'8" black woman? Come on now. Let's be realistic. If you're going to smuggle drugs, why would you get the tallest person on the planet that people are clearly going to notice? A black woman in Russia who's 6'8" with long dreadlocks coming through the airport and nobody notices her. This is not the behavior or the activity of a smuggler. This is somebody who, uses recreational THC, maybe for pain, maybe for relaxation. But under no circumstances should this woman receive a sentence of 9 years. No way. And, what our government could do, they had talked about initially a prison exchange. Somehow talks have broken down. For Brittany, I don't know how much longer she can hold out. This woman's whole life is in this country. And the sad part is, so Romane, what would you think would be the salary for the highest paid player in the WNBA?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm not a sports person, so.
Okay, so let me tell you. The highest paid WNBA player, I think her salary is somewhere in the neighborhood of $260,000. Now there may be some other endorsements, that come with that, but the salary, $260,000. That is what some NBA players make bi-weekly, right? Some of these NBA salaries can pay the salaries for an entire WNBA team, coaches and all, right? So these women who play the same game under the same conditions, but just are not being paid the same money. They have to, in the off season, go to places like Europe, where they have more lucrative contracts, where they can make enough money just to make ends meet in this country. That's why Brittany Griner is over there. That was her rationale, to go over, make enough money to provide for her and her spouse. You never heard of Michael Jordan going overseas to play, unless it was, promotional or with the dream team. But they made enough money right here. The WNBA now has been a working organization for more than 20 years. I mean, come on. Pay these women some money. If anything, this should be a lesson to WNBA ownership. We need to raise these salaries so that these women don't have to go overseas and we don't have another Brittany Griner. Because who knows what's going to happen now with her. When hope is lost and you believe that you've been completely forgotten by your government, your friends and family back home, who knows what this woman might be led to do? Who knows her psychological state right now? So I just think it is important that, we lobby our government to take the necessary steps to bring this young woman home. And again, the media is pretty silent on her right now. Before, when she was arrested and during the trial, we were getting constant updates, because we wanted to sort of vilify Russia and Vladimir Putin. But aside from the political game, a life was at stake. They're talking about possibly hard labor for 9 years. I think Brittany is in her early 30s. 9 years of being in prison in a Russian jail. What shape is she in when she leaves? Does she ever leave? So, I just think that, for women's groups in this country, nobody seems to be talking about Brittany Griner anymore.
Mm-mm.
The Me Too movement, has the Me Too movement abandoned Brittany Griner? I mean, what do you think?
Um, I think that what they were trying to say initially was that they were trying to be quiet. Our government was trying to be quiet for a minute as to not cause Russia to do anything irrational. But what they've done is already irrational. I think 2 days ago, Biden finally made a statement saying that they weren't going to be quiet anymore, that they were officially announcing that she was being wrongfully detained, um, and that they're not cooperating with a prisoner exchange. So he's starting to talk now, but he's probably starting to talk because our community is looking at him like, why aren't you doing anything about it? So I would imagine that right now this is traumatic, that very traumatic. And we don't know why she was already um, using cannabis. We don't know why, right? So we don't know if she already might have had some mental health issues, some anxiety or whatever. But even if she didn't, this would be justified. This would be justified for her to be experiencing anxiety. And it's like you said, you reach a point of feeling hopeless, and you reach a place of despair when you think to yourself, what do I do, or what's going to happen to me when I if I have to stay here for 9 years, or will I even make it out of here? So it's not a good situation for her mental health right now. I think right now, I think right now, what I wanted to just point out today was that um, mental health is real. We're looking at it from two different lenses. One where um, probably some PTSD now she has. She's probably I can only imagine. And then Kanye with an existing mental health disorder. So I mean, this is just what we're looking at today. Just the mental health state of two African American people that are in the public eye, and then our trust for government here. Who said that we were supposed to trust them to get her home?
Right.
Like, how come we had so much trust in the fact that they would get her home? How come she left the country with cannabis, trusting that she would be able to do that? How come when that happened and she got arrested, why was she trusting the government here to bring her home? Why do we all of a sudden have so much trust in the government? Why are we so surprised?
No, you're right. You're right. And you said, the president made a statement the other day, and the statement may have been motivated by the fact that it's an election year. Next month we have the midterm.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, anything to get a little support, especially support from the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess by making a token statement about Brittany Griner, I guess he thinks that'll help. But when you talk about mental health, that's a very, very serious problem in this country. Extremely serious. As I said, you can't turn on the news and not see where there's some senseless, random and senseless act of violence. And to that end, right, you have been working on Project 33, right? And, one of the goals is to reach out to people with mental illness, right? To make them aware of the resources that are available. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about Project 33?
Well, Project 33 is my baby, and we're a nonprofit group who is going to attempt to begin to reach out to individualized communities and point specific reach out, meaning um, go in, assess the needs in the community, and then try to meet the need educationally, culturally, to just create an atmosphere in everyone's individual community that's about equity and advancement, right? So we're starting this whole theme with mental health resource fair in May, which would just, we're going to attempt to start to dismantle the stigma that people have attached to therapy and mental health treatment. So how are we going to do this? Just have a day where people can come out, food, fun, games, and get a chance to see the service providers that are in the surrounding counties. Service providers meaning mental and behavioral health agencies, private practitioners, substance abuse agencies, so that people can come out and see the resources that they have in the community. And that if they are experiencing mental health issues, this is where you need to go for this issue. These are the people who deal with children. These are the people who specialize in adolescents. These are the people who specialize in adult treatment. These are the people who specialize in substance abuse. So imagine going through something like a mental health diagnosis and not knowing where to go and being afraid to start to talk to anybody about it because you don't want people to label you as crazy. So Project 33 is going to host this day of self-care. We're calling it You, a day for you, where you can come out and you can explore the resources that we have in relation to mental health in Monroe and Pike County, PA. And Ron, thank you for being on the committee.
Oh, you're welcome. And, you know, we have a tentative day in May, correct?
May 6th.
And the location is going to be right here, right over in Stroudsburg on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the borough.
In the borough, so that people know when and where to come out and to support this very important endeavor. Because, you know, this is a growing problem in this country. And it seems as if government isn't going to commit the resources to address this problem. So I guess it's up to us to reach out to our friends and neighbors and letting them know that there is help available. So Romane, thank you for coming up with this idea and for your commitment to mental health awareness. So, you know, with that, you know, the time goes by so quickly, but of course, we thank you all for tuning in and supporting us, you know, week after week. And, you know, if anybody knows somebody that knows Kanye West, see if you can get a message to some of his supporters, people around him, to get him some help. And for Brittany Griner, we need to lobby. I mean, these folks are looking for our support next month. Well, if you want our vote, then make a commitment to us that you're going to do everything in your power to bring Brittany Griner home and to address some of the other issues that affect Black, brown, and poor communities. So with that, I'm going to say good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us. Romane, it is a pleasure to have you join us via link. I know you're home taking care of the baby. So I hope to see you next Saturday. Oh, well, I'm sorry, in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to close out by saying, and this goes for Kanye too. If for some reason Kanye hears this, or somebody that knows Kanye hears this, and he can't think of anybody else to contact, or if it's anybody listening who is experiencing some mental health issues, maybe you're not even sure that it's mental health issues, but you feel like it would be helpful to sit and talk to somebody, you can reach out to me. You could go to project33.org and you could send me a message directly, and I will link you into service providers. You don't have to go through it alone. There are people who care. There are people who won't stigmatize what you're going through. You can get some help. So
And boy, do we need it in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So again, to our listeners, thank you for your continued support. And we hope to see you again right back here in 2 weeks. Y'all have a good weekend.
Bye.